this test tomorrow. All right, here we go. So, first of all, everybody look at the front page. What is this? It is not going away. And if you cannot factor, you are sad tomorrow. Because I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to make it so you cannot pass this test unless you can do these problems. And I don't know if I have to make them 15 apiece. I don't know what I have to do. But you better be able to factor tomorrow. Jack, that factoring is not on that phone. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. I'm here. I'm ready. I'm lecturing. So, first of all, number 1, it says to solve. That's number 1. So solve means you have to set each of the factors equal to 0. Number 2, this looks like the test looks. What do you think these little lines off to the side are for? Your answer. And that means you can't work it 3 different times and leave all 3 answers there and let me choose which one you wanted. Pick an answer and put it on the line so I know what your actual answers are. So when I start, I have to start with the t-chart, A times C. So my A this time is 1. 1 times 48 is 48, and my B is negative 14. So I want factors of 48 that add to negative 14. Anybody? Negative 8, negative 6. Very good. And so in front of the squared is an x, so I'm going to have x minus 8 and x minus 6, and that equals 0. And you have to set each term equal to 0. So my x is 8 and 6. So number 2, what's the difference between 1 and 2? Is it equal to 0? No. So you have to move the 10. So I'm going to have 3x squared plus x minus 10. And if you don't move the 10, you end up getting it wrong. So my A times C now is 3 times negative 10, which is negative 30, and my B is 1. So what factors do I want? 6 and 5? And so negative 5, because it's a negative 30. Why is the 6 not negative? Why is the 5 negative and not the 6? Right. So you want a positive. So if this is a negative 1, then the 6 would be negative. It would be the opposite. So when I put in parentheses, what's in front of the squared this time? So this time it's 3x plus 6 and 3x minus 5. And the 3x plus 6 reduces. So you have to set both equal to 0. So we get a negative 2 and 5/3. On number 3, is their greatest common factor? What is it? 2. So if I divide by 2, so I get x squared minus 25. And so how do I factor that x squared minus 25? It's the perfect square, but you're right. We're going to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to have x plus 5 and x minus 5. And this time, I have this, this, and this. So I'm going to set all of them equal to 0. So the 2 equals 0, is there a variable there? So I don't have to do that one. But then I do have to do this one and this one. So you get plus and minus 5. So number 4, what's the greatest common factor? So be careful because, see this one? So it's just the x, right? You want the lowest one in all of them, so that's just x. So when I divide, I get x squared minus 8x plus 16. So my a times c is 16, and my b is negative 8. So what factors do I want? Negative 4, negative 4. So I get x times x minus 4, x minus 4. Now this time, you have to set all of them equal to 0, just like last time. So I get x equals 0. So one of my answers is 0. And these are the same, so I just have to write it one time. No. So number 5, these are adding and subtracting. So I get 4, and so here I have minus 3, so I have to distribute that. So I get plus 24 minus 6i, and then this is a minus, so I get minus 6 plus I. So first of all, you have to get rid of the parentheses, and then I'm going to combine like terms. So 24 and 4 is 28, minus 6 gives me 22. And then I get minus 6i plus I is minus 5i. So we just added and subtracted. Can I put together the 22 and 7? I mean the 22 and 5? Uh-oh. Because one of them has an I, right? So we can't combine those. So number 6, what am I doing? Multiplying. So I'm going to take negative 4 times 2 gives me negative 8. Negative 4 times minus 3i gives me plus 12i, minus 2i, and then plus 3i squared. And what did we say I squared was? Negative 1. So what happens to this 3? So this is negative. So I get minus 8 minus 3 is negative 11. And then I get 12i minus 2i gives me plus 10i. Okay, turn over and go to number 12. So for those of you that were out celebrating the Astros when we were all here learning something, this is the discriminant. It's the square root part of the quadratic. And if the discriminant is 0, you get one real solution. If the discriminant is positive, you get 2 real solutions. And if the discriminant is negative, you get 2 complex solutions. So it says determine the type of solution for the quadratic equation using the discriminant. So my A is 3, my B is 11, and my C is negative 10. So I'm just checking the discriminant. So B squared is 121 minus 4 times 3 times negative 10. So negative 4 times 3 is negative 12 times a negative 10 is a positive 120, which means my discriminant is the square root of 241. Is that positive, negative, or 0? positive, so what kind of solutions do I get? Real, and it's 2 of them. All right, go to the back. So what do I have to do first on number 15? Subtract the 16, right? So you get x squared plus 6x minus 16. So my a is 1, my b is 6, and my c is negative 16. So b squared is 36. 4ac is going to be 4 times 1 times the negative 16, which is negative 64. And 2a is 2. So I get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus a negative 64 all over 2. And my minus the minus becomes a positive, which gives me 100. So my discriminant is 100. So that's positive. So what kind of solutions did I get? 2 and real. So what is the square root of 100? 10. So I'm going to take my 10 and put it in for the square root of 100. And since it's a perfect square, the radical goes away, right? There's nothing left underneath the radical sign. So I get x equals negative 6 plus or minus 10 over 2. If it's a perfect square, you get 2 real answers. So I'm going to get x equals negative 6 plus 10 over 2, which equals 4 over 2, or 2. And I do it again for negative 6 minus 10 over 2, which gives me negative 16 over 2, which is negative 8. So I get negative 8 and 2 as answers. Negative 6 plus 10 is 4. But number 16, if we work this one, a is 3, b is 5, and c is 4. b squared is 25. 4ac is going to be 12 times 4 is 48. And 2a is 6. So if I fill this in, I get negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 48 all over 6. So my discriminant is negative 23. So what kind of solutions do I get? 2 and complex. So if I have negative 23, that's negative 1 times the square root of 23. And what's the square root of negative 1? I times the square root of 23. So that goes right back in right there. So can I reduce anything? No.